about that. Smaller items such as backpacks and purses should be placed under the seat in front of you. Once your bags are safely stowed. Oh yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is terrible. Share the other one for hands.
Oh, they give you a separate one for that.
Oh, okay.
I know. Out there, check it out.
Right here?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's where my sister took me with Marcin.
Nice. In August. About to take off the right?
how it's working.
First three episodes of Big Little Lies. Want to watch that?
I like Big Little Lies. I may even watch that too.
They have the White Lotus.
Oh, they. Oh, they have made. Here. Go. Yeah, yeah.